Hey,
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm doing well too. Ready for next week.
Yeah, me too. Especially after last week.
I know.
Like
We
crushed my
managed
soul.
one farm. Yeah.
Yeah, the research final.
Yeah, it was quite a week. I don't want to experience it again. And I'm
No.
the one who had to take the exam like 3 times and my
Oh,
so I'm like, never again.
yeah. That happened to the other two, because you're in my block, aren't you?
Hmm.
Okay, that's what I thought. It happened to like a different block also.
I know. I thought it was honestly, I thought the test was going to get a little bit more curved than it did.
Yeah, I
But
would agree with that.
Ooh, sorry. Are you guys talking about care management?
Yeah.
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 I was definitely hoping for it to be a little bit more curved, but it's okay.
Yeah. Did you guys have issues with the test too, like in your block? Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I had to take it 3 times.
Oh my God.
That is like so anxiety inducing.
I know. I was there for like close to 4 hours.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Yeah, it was traumatizing for sure.
Well, somebody in our block emailed her, or like I think a few people did, and they were like, the testing environment is really like anxiety provoking. Is there anything we can do about this? And I guess they like met with her and said basically, oh, so like you have testing anxiety, you should go to like the services and like figure that out instead of like taking ownership and being like, oh, like we were a little bit distracting
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
They just said it was her fault, which is frustrating.
Yeah, really bad.
Yeah.
Really, really bad. Okay. I feel like I'm going to be so lost with finding all of the links and stuff, but
Are you
I'll be
recording?
organized.
Oh.
It is recording, yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. So I guess we really need, like, for this one to just make the Pico question, which I feel like is going to be, is it called Pico?
That's what I've been calling it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We need to like make that, but I guess it'd be helpful to go over like kind of what we have done.
Yeah.
Okay, so like for the brief paragraph in like part one,
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. If anyone would like to edit wording, I am like more than fine with that, because sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know what the best way to word it is. And other people are like much more well-versed than I am. So if anyone feels like it's bad, just tell me to reword it and I will. But I talked about how like I opened it with like how our topic is really relevant right now because we're coming out of the pandemic. And so social isolation was a thing then that really affected children. And then how there is research that, or there's evidence that shows that poor or that social isolation and loneliness can lead to depression and anxiety for children. And that can go on for like 9 years. And then since it said includes statistical data, I said 1 in 5 people experience clinically significant mental health problems before the age of 25, and roughly 50% of those mental health problems are symptomatic by the age of 14. And then this age group is the longest age group to like get their initial treatment. And then there have been no successful interventions for like mitigating isolation and depression. So that's just what that part says. And then, okay, I didn't do part 2.
who did part 2? Do we know?
Yeah, I think I did. I'm trying to find my paper.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay, so the second one was, why does this question need to be answered? I'm sure you guys are looking at the question. I said this needs to be answered because social isolation is impacting children and teenagers' physical and mental health. The group that is directly affected or being affected are children and teenagers, but it is also affecting everyone else, just like in their individual lives. If this question is not addressed, we will begin to see an increase in depression and anxiety, as well as suicide in these age groups. Students show a link between mental and physical health, suggesting that psychological factors such as depression and anxiety play an important role in the development of heart disease. And then that was just like from the study. And then I said studies conducted have also began to see trends of an increased cardiovascular health in these individuals. The study suggests that 95% with a high risk of cardiac inflammation, as well as with metabolic diseases such as obesity, hypertension, and diabetes. There are no direct or indirect socioeconomic outcomes impacted by this.
And then I did 3 also. So this one you could pick between the different theorists. And I chose this Dorothea Oram girl, because she focused on self-care the most, which I feel like related the most because of the mental health aspect. And then also, she has like the overarching self-care theory, and then she has like 3 sub theories, and one of that is self-care deficit, which I was thinking would match the isolation part. Like, because if you are isolated, then you're not really like getting that human interaction. So that is, which is part of self-care. And let's see, the need for, okay, so like using her theory, we'll be able to address the performance and practices of children, as well as intervention upon social isolation to prevent poor mental health outcomes. So basically just like intervening with like self-care deficit to prevent all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I
just have a quick question about number 2. So the socioeconomic outcomes you found, like there weren't any for the isolation and like negative mental health outcomes for that one?
Not in the study that I looked at, but I can look at more studies because I'm sure it has something to do with it. But then like when we think about like the pandemic, it's something that affected everyone, and regardless of the socioeconomic status, it was not like if you had money, you were able to go out.
Yeah. I mean, I can also, since like you guys did those, first 3, I can also look into that. Like you already did a ton of the work, so I can.
Okay. And if you need help or I can do anything, just let me know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't able to find a connection there either, like a statistical evidence. But I think it's just because that's just like loneliness was just one aspect, and it would have to be like something like loneliness, maybe like poverty and things like that versus just loneliness alone. It didn't like just leave.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. I was just thinking like, socioeconomic status can impact like mental health and stuff like that too. So that might be like an indirect way, but there probably isn't explicit studies on, stuff like that.
I think also a lot of the research that we're going to find is going to be tied into the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, and because we're like kind of still in it, there might not be any concrete conclusions.
Yeah, there just hasn't been enough time to like draw that. That makes sense.
Yeah, which I think that'll be fine because I mean it's still like, you know,
Going
kind of
on.
a thing. So I don't think it'll be like bad that we're
Mhm.
kind of
And we
tying it.
could-
Well, I think we're like not trying to tie it in there, but like a majority of the studies are
yeah.
about social isolation while during the pandemic. So
We could do like in our PICO's question, like maybe in like the time, we could tie that in there, like just like an emphasis on COVID or something, like more recent studies, I guess. I know the T and the S are optional, but we could, if there's like more research on that area, maybe do that.
Mhm. Does anyone have any fantastic ideas for the PICOS question?
Well, I guess the population,
Is the children.
it, yeah, just like people under the age of, do we want to say like 18 for children then?
Mhm.
The most like simple one. The others, I don't.
I'm trying to find. Sorry, there was one article that I found that like did pull 2 interventions, but showed that they weren't like really successful. So I was one, but I'm gonna look at what those interventions are to see if we could maybe spin off of it.
is the population adolescents or
Oh, that's a good. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I believe it's children. So would we want to go lower for the?
so like in school age children?
Yeah, maybe like
That
specify a
could
little
be
bit
like the
more.
population.
Yeah.
I mean, school age, I guess, could be anywhere from
Yeah, that could be anywhere.
12. Yeah.
Yeah.
I maybe would say just school age, just because,
That leaves it open, like to be a little bit more.
yeah, I don't know how much research we would be able to find on like pre-adolescent.
Yeah.
Great. This one says a peer mentor program, like they did a peer mentor program as an intervention with an adult mentor. And it was 4 to 6 hours per month for 4 months on average. And it had small effects at reducing loneliness and mental health problems for victims of bullying and victimization. So it wasn't as like specifically isolation. It was more like the victims of bullying and victimization. So maybe something like that would be beneficial to consider. Or the other one that they did was a universal classroom based program that like was just shown in schools, that included like psychosocial support resources, but that didn't reduce loneliness in the kids. And so it said, and then it says neither of those interventions were specifically addressing mental health problems that had developed in the context of loneliness. So they couldn't like draw a conclusion. But maybe since the peer mentor program showed like some effect, we could try something like that as an intervention.
Yeah, I like that idea.
I think I can't remember. If this was an article that I I clicked on from. I was clicking on your articles at the bottom, Joy.
Mhm.
And so I can't remember if this is one of those or a separate one. I think it's a separate one. But I can include that.
I think I saw an article about physical activity being an intervention for loneliness.
Mhm.
I think I saw like 3 articles on that
Mhm.
because I think this one is it. Like the starter says, physical activity interventions could reduce loneliness and improve psychological well-being, among other health benefits. And let me try to see if I can actually see the full article because she's not going to take that. So yeah, things as older adults. Let me just look for keywords. See if they put children in here somewhere. How old do these articles have to be?
That's a great
I think
question.
within the last like 10 years is normally, some people do 5, but I think last 10 years is normally like best practice.
I think like the closer to now, the better, but
Yes.
whatever you can find.
Yeah. And if it's like a good study and it's outside of that range, I think that's generally like acceptable if it's been, used a lot. I found one that is a trial and doesn't have, a ton of data, but it's about telephone befriending as an intervention for like rural youth specifically.
Like using technology.
Yeah. Trying to like read a little bit more about it. There's assisting participants to mobilize social support from family, friends, and significant others by using the telephonic befriending intervention. Let me see if I can figure out what this is even. Yeah, so basically like technology. It's a 2021 study, so it's like open access and it's not finished, so it might not be the best one.
Are we? Sorry, this might be like a really dumb question. Are we like writing it? A research article? Are we like present? I guess I just like haven't looked fully at like
Right.
the outcome of this project. Like once we've gone all the way through. Because that article that you're looking at might be helpful in like a discussion part.
Yeah. No, I know. I'm trying to figure out like the like big picture of this project. It's kind of confusing.
Very.
I
honestly,
knew where we were
like-
going.
I'm just taking it assignment by assignment because
Yeah.
if I look at the full thing, I think I'm just gonna like
Yeah.
be done with it. So.
Okay, it does look like it's a presentation,
Okay.
but only 10 minutes.
Okay, so are we basically kind of doing like a meta analysis on a question? Because it seems like we're gathering like a bunch of articles that
like a bunch of data.
yeah, and then putting them together in a table, like a synthesis table, and then presenting that table like, hey, here's the like current
research.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I was understanding that also.
Which it might be kind of hard with this topic just because like if all of the articles have to be centered on this PCOTS question, if we pick one singular intervention, like how would we find multiple articles with that singular intervention?
That's a really good question.
Like if it was something like cloudy, like the other groups have, you know, like the intervention of like using asepsis, I'm sure there's like multiple articles about that.
Mhm.
But
Maybe we could just broaden it to like group activity.
okay.
And then that would include like, you could include maybe like on technology, like connecting like via those phone calls as a group activity. You could include the physical activity joy that you found if in the context maybe of like a team,
Hmm.
and then from like a peer mentor
Yeah.
standpoint. So it would be like threefold, but with like just group activity as a thing.
Okay. So for the Peacoats question, the population, is everyone okay with doing like school age children?
Mhm.
Okay. I don't know if it's school age like that. And then for the intervention, do you want to type that in, Kieran?
Me?
Yeah, you sound like you have like the best grasp on it, and I don't want to like mess it up.
I don't know about
Paraphrase.
I don't know about that. So intervention being
I'm just going to look at the rubric for this assignment too.
group activity. Uh, could that technically be like, so if we were saying in group activity, like as like having multiple variables, does that make sense? Like you have your control, but then we also are like analyzing it from like the outcomes of the different variables, or is that like
Yeah, I kind of get what you're
way
saying.
too complicated for what we're
Right. Like, are we comparing the different interventions within that, or just like those each to the control? Is that what you're saying?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
Participation in group activity. And then the C, which is the comparison versus maybe participation in extracurricular group activity,
Sure.
since we're doing school age children, and then comparison versus no activity, like no extracurricular activities.
Yeah, you could say, or
Because this, I guess, because
yeah,
then the commonality would be that they're all in school, theoretically.
sure. Yeah,
Does that make sense?
I think it does. I guess the Pico question is a little bit confusing for this one. So we could, get a good draft here and then like email her and be like,
This is what we have. Does it make sense?
yeah, if it makes no sense, she'll probably email back and say like, do something completely different, you know? But
So fun.
okay. And then the outcome, I feel like this one is a little bit more straightforward, like improved, mental health and decreased loneliness, probably more decreased loneliness
Are we supposed to say loneliness I mean, social isolation is kind of the same thing.
yeah, it's
Or maybe decrease feelings of loneliness.
related to social isolation, you could say.
Yeah.
They kind of tie that.
If we relate it. Don't you think that's good?
Yeah,
I feel like they love a related
I
to
think
statement.
so.
Yeah, I feel like they'll like that. It's like a nursing diagnosis.
We love those.
Oh,
I
God.
forgot this was recorded.
Oops.
I don't think they're gonna watch the whole thing anyway.
Probably not.
For some reason, I do think that there is a 40-minute time limit.
Okay. I do
Uh,
think she said in the orientation, like if we like get through our stuff and it ends up only being 20 minutes long, that's okay too. So
However, we have been on for longer than that, so that's good.
there you
Okay,
go.
so outcome, decreased feelings of loneliness related to social isolation.
Yeah. And do we want to do a T and an S? I mean, they're optional. I feel like I feel like they just kind of make it harder, but up to you guys.
I agree.
I'm good for either option, honestly.
Wait, so we don't have to technically do either of them, but we could, like, it sounds like there's a lot of data on COVID-19, so we could try and put that in there, or we can just keep it broad because it already seems like it might be a little difficult to find research.
Yeah, and then situation with
Yeah, that could be the S.
like, would COVID be the situation more than the timing?
Yeah. No, I think it might fit situation better. You're probably right. I feel like it could fit both, but situation, I think that makes a little more sense.
And then timing. Oh, see, it would just like make sense to be like 6 months after, but like you can't,
Right.
like, we can't do that.
No. I think that's why that one's optional, because I feel like if we just leave it out, it's okay. Because I was looking at the rubric. I don't know where it went.
Are there points associated? I know that they're optional, but are there like extra points associated with the T and the S?
I don't think so. Let me find it again. I just had it. Okay. So 5% of it is significance of selected topic to patients. This is all in the first one, or is this? There's like 3 categories in the rubric that are each 5%. Significant of selected topics to patients, significant of selected topic to society, and then to nursing. And then the paragraph about lit search plan. Why does nursing need to answer this question? How many people could be affected by this? What's the outcome if it's not addressed? Are there direct, indirect? The most points comes from the PICO statement. It says P, I, C, and O required, T and S optional.
Okay.
I mean, what we have so far, I think we can make a statement out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So since I am not very good at wording, does anyone have like good wording ideas for that?
I mean, we could start off with the P and just in school age children, comma. That's all I got.
I should type that in there.
It's a good start.
Maybe how does participation in extracurricular group activities versus no extra, you know what I'm saying? It's literally in the order.
Yeah.
Decreased feelings of, I mean, there we go. Done.
Yes.
If that even sounds right.
That was fantastic.
Do I say decreased feelings of loneliness, or like, should I just keep it general and say how does it affect it? So that's not like a biased question, or I don't know. I'm probably overthinking it. Like, should I just put affect or like impact feelings of loneliness related to
Yeah.
social isolation?
Yeah.
Not type today. Oh my gosh. I think that's pretty good.
I think so.
Versus no extra impact feelings of loneliness related to social isolation. Oh, you guys, we just got a gift from Zoom. Removed the 40-minute time limit.
Nice.
Thanks. Yeah, I like that question.
Okay. I know we have to, there's like 6 points on the rubric with just like submitting the actual PDF of the article with this assignment too. So let's just make sure we do that.
One of them, I tried to submit it as the PDF because when you click on it, it goes to the website, but then you just click PDF and it shows up on your thing. But it wouldn't, even when I used the link for the PDF, it still took me to the website. However,
Is that the article one? That's the first one, right?
I think that's that one.
Yeah. I think that's fine because it's still the PDF version.
Yeah, I mean, it says PDF at the top and you click it and it just opens a new tab. It's not like, you know.
Yeah. I was going to ask, did the PDF of the theorist article work?
Yeah, it worked. I think I'm just going to have to attach it as like
a separate thing.
A separate thing, but that's why I just said see attached because I downloaded it so I can just upload it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
It'll be
Yeah, that's a good point.
Perfect.
Yeah, that one they want the article, like the theorist article specifically.
Separate, yeah.
Okay, do we want to double check our PICO question with her? Or are we okay? Like just calling it? Up to you guys.
I think it's pretty strong, but
yeah.
But also I'm like, what do I know?
I mean, the assignment is a little confusing, so but I think we did good with it.
I think it's a good one.
Okay, so then for the Zoom recording, we also have the meeting record.
Yeah.
Which I don't mind doing. I guess I just have to upload it by tomorrow, right?
I think so. Yeah, we could. I think we have 4 meetings, so we could just like rotate like who does it each meeting, maybe. Would you guys be comfortable with that?
Yeah.
That works.
And then plans for continued. Okay. I'm just making sure that we're like covering everything in the meeting that it wants us to.
Okay. Oh, you have the record up.
Yeah, I have it pulled up.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so I'll be recording. So summary of content discussion, which we can talk about how we went over step 1 and then drafted our PICO question together.
Mm-hmm.
And then it wants a note the plan for continued work on the group project and notes regarding which group members are contributing to or completing the various parts. So maybe if we want to go ahead and I'm so sorry. Maybe if we want to go ahead and look at step 2.
Sure.
And then kind of come up with an outline so that then whenever we meet post spring break, right? It's not, yeah, when we meet post spring break, then we have at least we can come like to the table with what we have done. Awesome.
Yeah. I think step 2 we do individually. Is that correct? I think she said that in the orientation. Like we each do one.
Yeah. And it says individual. Oh, but we need to check with each other to make sure there's no duplicate articles.
Okay.
You know how she uploaded like the new calendar of specific EBP project dates?
Yeah.
Where is it? I cannot find it. today.
think she just emailed it to us. I
Oh.
don't know if it's on Blackboard.
Okay, that's why I can't find it because I haven't found my email. Cool. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
Okay, so maybe we can just make a plan that like following spring break, this is like what we can say in the summary, like following spring break, we'll have a plan to talk about like the articles, maybe like Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah.
After spring break, we'll like plan on meeting to go over our articles, but we'll touch base before then about which articles we have, and that can just be the summary there.
Yeah. I think maybe like too, like you find an article, just like text in the group chat, like, hey, I found this one, just making sure nobody else has it.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to do like a whole sheet and then like one of us has to do it.
Someone else has done it. Yes. And then I guess that covers step 2. So then in the following meeting, we can talk about step 3.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild. That's kind of fast.
Mm-hmm. I feel like this semester is going so fast.
The next meeting, we're talking about step 2, or are we just doing that on our own and then gonna come back for step 3?
Maybe the next one. Well, I think step 2 we do on our own, and then we'll come to so we'll do step 2 on our own, but when we come to like back to meet, have like the important information maybe, because I think step 3 is that synthesis table.
Yeah. I think we could also, I guess the second meeting might just be a little shorter. Like, oh, this is what we did for step 2. You know, we'll discuss stuff for step 3 next meeting. Kind of.
Yeah, step 2 could just be, I mean, the second meeting, gosh, I can't even keep it organized. The second meeting, maybe just like outline what everyone's doing for step 3.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Be our plan. Cool.
Nice.
Did that cover everything?
I think so. Oh, who is going to submit? Just so we.
I can submit it.
I think.
And I can submit the recording and the summary page.
Awesome.
Cool.
Nice.
Well, good work.
Wow. Yeah. You guys have a good spring break.
Thanks, y'all too. All right. Yeah, lots of sleep.
Yes.
Okay, well, I will see y'all after spring break.
Yes. Okay. Bye.
Bye.